Hi guys, it's Emily from Novell Novels and welcome to today's video. This is rereading Jane Austen. Now, I have reread all but one of her books, and I thought today I would talk about whether rereading it affects how you feel about the book, whether it affects your ranking of Jane Austen's books, whether it affects my thoughts on it. I sort of thought this could be a nice sort of chatty video because a lot of us have now read Jane Austen's main 6 novels, and I would love to know. I'm going to obviously talk about how it's affected me, but I would love to know down below, how has rereading Jane Austen's books affected your star ratings of the book? Not affected your star ratings, affected your enjoyment of the book. Have you got more out of it when you reread them? Do you think you like them more or like them less when you reread them? I just thought I really wanted to talk about it because for me, it really has had a mixed impact. Some of the books I've loved more. Some of the books I've loved less. Some of them just kind of stayed in the middle. Now, I'm going to talk about the books in the order that they were released. So from the first book that was released into the 2 books that were released posthumously, so released after Jane Austen died. Those 2 I'm not done in specific order, I've just sort of done them in the way I've written them down. And obviously I've not really watched any of the series. I think also watching some of the Netflixes, some of the films has had an impact on people. But again, every book, I'll talk about that a bit more. But I don't want this to be a long video. This is the end of Jane Austen, July nearly, and I'm just kind of like seeing how I go with it. So, the first book of hers that got released was Sensibility. Originally this was called Eleanor and Melanie Ann, who are the 2 sisters that are the lead characters of this book. Now, it's basically about the Dashwood sisters, who their father dies at the start of the book, and yet they are basically sort of left, they don't have a male sibling, so I think it's like a cousin or something that has to look after them. This is the only one I've not reread, so next year I plan to reread this, because at the moment it's my least favourite. It wasn't one that kind of grabbed me or was one that jumped out at me, even though it's about sisters, and normally books with sisters I absolutely love, but at the moment this one didn't really grab me when I read it for the first time last year. But I'm hoping when I reread this one will have more of an impact. I don't really remember the heroes in this, and I thought the sisters were okay, but it wasn't one that really, like I said, it wasn't one that jumped out at me, and I don't know why. I don't know if there's something I'm missing with this. I don't remember the male characters in this, which is a sign that it didn't really sort of impact me a lot. You've also got Lucy Steele. Now I do vaguely remember her, which is an extra character in this, and she's like a self-centered fortune hunter. I don't know what this was. Even this could have been, because it was her first book that was published, it could have been the reason why I didn't get much out of it. I've not listened to any rereads. I believe there is a TV series that I was hoping to watch this year, but I must admit I'm under the rabbit hole of Call Midwife, and I can't watch anything else on TV. So I will watch the TV series that was done a long time ago on Sensibility, and I hope that will get me more out of it. But that one just didn't grab me. Now, the next book to get released was released in 1813. Sorry, I don't know if I said. This was released in 1811. The next one to get published was Pride and Prejudice, and that was published in 1813. As you can well tell, it is my favourite. I've got 2 copies of this. I've got the most beautiful copy, and I've got another copy. And this is by far my favourite Austen. I've read it twice. So I only reread it once. I think I might have reread it twice, but I've certainly read it twice, but I possibly read it 3 times, I'm not sure, but I definitely have read this one twice. And when I reread it, I got more out of it. I've also watched the TV series, which was done a long time ago, and I loved that. There is so many retellings of this, which also I think has affected my love of Pride and Prejudice. I've read The Other Bennet Sister, I've read, what other ones? The Other Bennet Sister is one that really stood out to me. There are other retellings, and I think I would like to read more of them. But there are a lot of books about Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice is mentioned in so many other retellings of that era. It's mentioned in Miss Austen. It was mentioned in Northanger Abbey, some of the characters in this. This is just one of my absolute all-time favourite books because It's about four sisters. Now, we all know about Pride and Prejudice. It is probably her most renowned. Watched the series, done a lot. I've read a lot of books that have got references to to Pride and Prejudice. It's five sisters, actually. And I absolutely sodding love this. And when I reread it, I got more out of it. This is one I could reread multiple of times, and it's just stunning. Like, I love the five sisters. Yes, obviously we got the Lydia that was the bad boy, which is who she mentioned in the I just remember, that's what I meant. Read Death that Comes to Pemberley. That's another retelling of this, and I thoroughly loved this. I cannot believe that. I really can't believe that. And it was just such a good series. Like the sister, you know the sisters. We've got Lydia, we've got Elizabeth, we've got who is it? The younger ones, and we've got all of them. They're just all so amazing. Why is my brain? I need to write more notes and prepare my videos. Obviously, like Elizabeth, and we've got Jane, who's the eldest. Now, Jane, I love Jane. Jane is the eldest, and I love Jane. Yes, of course we love Elizabeth. Yes, of course. And then they've got the Lydia, and then you've got the middle sister, Mary, who is spoken more about in the other Bennet sister, and I think I got more out of it. Then you've got Elizabeth, and then you've got the younger sister, and why can I not remember the younger sister's name? But this is just, it's just gorgeous, and I think I got so much out of it. My brain is fried, but literally you cannot. Mr. Bennet, and you've got the bad boy. And Mr. Darcy, oh my god, I love Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy is like a bit of a bad boy, but he's so good. Mr. Wickham, the naughty Mr. Wickham. And then you've got Mr. Collins, and you've got Mr. Bennet, and you've just got so many characters, and you love this. You cannot fail to love this book. It is just the best. Yes, the younger sisters are the ones that are not spoken about. Lydia's spoken about a lot. The younger sister is not spoken about very much in this. Mary Bennet's not spoken about very much in this. But Jane and Elizabeth, and obviously you've got Lydia, who was the naughty one. They are all spoken about so much. I would love to read more about this, but this is just rereading. I got the most out of it, but it is my favourite book by far. Then next to be published was Mansfield Park, which was published in 1814. Now, this was one of the first Jane Austen books that I read, and this is, I know, Katie from Books and Things' favourite book. But when I read it the first time, I absolutely loved it. It's got like chronic pain issue in it as well, chronic fatigue, and you've got the characters in this. And this is a really good book in the fact that Fanny is in this. That she's our lead character. Basically, she comes from a poorer family, and she gets sent to live with another family. And yet there are elements of this that made me go, that when I reread it, made me feel icky. Like, I can't give spoilers away, but she's got two older male cousins and two younger female cousins that she goes to stay with. And there is romance in this, but to me the romance element was a bit icky. Like, it's just, yeah, I can't imagine falling for anyone, so I don't really want to say too much, but there are, yeah. She's got her brother, William, that she's really close to, and I did like that. I liked her sibling relationship with her older brother. And the fact that she got taken away from her family. She gets taken away from her family to go and stay with these cousins because they are better off. And when she goes to visit her family, I think they were based in Portsmouth. When she goes back to stay with them, she sort of finds herself judging a little bit. Comes from a very large family. That's why she gets taken off to somewhere else. And there are elements of this that was good, but I reread it, and when I reread it, I think it went down from being like first right down to fourth in my ratings, because I found certain bits icky, and there were certain bits that I just couldn't grasp, and I probably got more out of it. But I'm still going to keep it. I still want to reread it, and maybe again I might get more out of it. This is the thing with Jane Austen. You can reread her books multiple times and still get stuff out of it. I tend to skim read when I'm having a real issue with my classics, which I'm planning a video for in August. But Jane Austen's works are ones that I can easily reread over and over again and get more out of them each time. Now, to Emma. I reread this year for the second or third time. You would have heard me talk about this in my wrap-up part 1. And this is my third time for definite rereading it. So this is definitely the third time. First 2 times I read it, I rated it 4 stars. This year I rated it 5, and it went right up to second place. Yes, there are elements of this that are kind of, oh, our male character is a bad boy, he's naughty, but you just can't help but love Emma. I think Emma reminds me of my ditzy self. the side of me that likes to matchmake, the side of me that likes to like find that people that see the best in people and thinks that she's doing everything for people and tends to get it wrong, because I get it wrong a lot. Her father, Mr. Woodhouse, is a very he's a worrywart. Emma is the second eldest. She's got an older sister who is married, and Mr. Knightley's older brother. And then they've got Mr. Knightley, who is the romance element of this. And he says it as he sees it. He is very, he stands up to, he says stuff to Emma that no one else would dare. But I love that. And yes, he doesn't always get it right. And when he proposes the first time, you're like, oh, he means he's got the best intentions. But yeah, I also think I actually watched the film of this. And I think a lot of people have got mixed views on the latest film of Emma. But when I watched it, I thoroughly loved it. I thought it made a lot of things actually more sense. There are a lot of characters in this you like Jane Fairfax is a bad girl. You've got the romance elements. There are so many romances in this, and the way she, Mr. Weston and Frank Churchill, there were just so many characters I loved in this. So many characters I hated. Mr. Elton, who I absolutely hated. And then when she's trying to set things up with her friend Harriet, and you just see there are so many characters in this. You just get the feels for. You get to know them. You really like them. You want them all to get the happy endings. And Emma has got the purest heart, and her ending is brilliant. I just think it ends everything really brilliantly. And it was just, I've got 2 copies of this as well, and you just can't help but love it. I just can't help but looking at this book. And it was, like I said, for me it went from 4 stars to 5 stars this year, and the only other 5 stars out of the Austen books is Pride and Prejudice. And I think, to be honest, I still can never decide the rankings. I always find Pride and Prejudice is my favourite, but Emma is so close behind. And that was just, I just can read it. Highbury is a great character. It's a great location settings. Harriet Smith, her friend, and the sort of class system is also spoken about quite a lot in this. Emma is from the upper class. Harriet is from the slightly lower class. And it's just, that is discussed very well. I just think this is a thoroughly brilliant book, and one I loved so much. Now, the next 2 books were published posthumously, so they were published after Jane Austen died. Neither of them in particular order, they're just the order that, excuse me, I read about. So, the first one I'm talking about is Northanger Abbey. I reread this year, because obviously it was a group book, and I got a lot more out of it the second time. I really did. I got a lot more out of it. The first time around, I think I rated it 3 stars. This year, it only went up to 3.5, but it is 3.5, nearly 5, nearly 4, because I actually enjoyed reading about Catherine Morland a lot more. I didn't think that it was as predictable. I liked Henry and Eleanor Tilney a lot more when I read them, and I think that even though Catherine is actually one of the youngest of Jane Austen's protagonists, when you read this, you sort of see that she kind of has the best heart. It's sort of set in Bath, and it's set in Northanger Abbey, and Catherine is a dreamer, very much a daydreamer, and you see the best in her. Like I said, I would have spoken more about this in the reread, but it isn't my favourite, and it probably still goes down as 5th, but I certainly got more out of it this time round, and I certainly want to read it again and again and again, because I'm hoping that when my head's in, I probably didn't get as much out of it this time, because I'm there were still elements that I didn't connect, because Catherine is certainly the youngest character. Yeah, I didn't kind of get out as much of it, but again, I think rereading this one definitely helped. Now to the last of Jane Austen's book, but the one where my opinion changed so much on the reread, and that is Persuasion by Jane Austen. This, when I first read it, I hated it. I did not like it. I did not get it. I did not understand it. It was a real negative book, and it was one that I was bashing my head going, everyone else has said they love this. I know it's Berna's favourite Austen, one of her favourite books ever, and I felt awful that I didn't get much out of it. But when I reread this went from being my least favourite to being my 3rd favourite, because I certainly got a lot more out of it. Now this one, Anne Elliot is actually one of the oldest protagonists. She really has, at the start of this book, she gets forced into declining the proposal of Captain Wentworth. and she gets forced into making a decision that she doesn't want to do because she gets told that he's not good enough for her. And she is very much ruled by her family, she's ruled by their feelings, and she doesn't go with her heart. And as this book goes on, she kind of grows, and I think she kind of gets a bit of strength in her. And yes, Anne Elliot is one of the quietest heroines, but she's the strongest, and she has to change, and she changes so much. This is set at the Napoleonic War time of accident and adventure. And yeah, like Captain Wentworth's a real strong one, he's a real kind heart. And the more, I just love this. It's one of, I think this is probably her shortest book. It is actually one that I think wasn't even completed completely. I think there was some bits of it that could have been done more, and I don't think she wrote, I think this was her last book she actually wrote. And because of that, it didn't get a chance to be copy edited and to have certain things that were finished. So she could have done more on this, but obviously she died before she sort of completed it fully. I believe it was completed, but it wasn't done. There was something more to it. And I think that's what you get out of it. But yeah, this is the one that completely, like, my head spun on my tails, that it just completely changed, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. A lot more on the reread. And yes, there is a Netflix thing on this, and I believe that has had very mixed reviews. I've not watched that because I know that Marissa from Blatantly Bookish hated it, and that scares me, so I'm kind of a bit wary of watching that, because I did love Persuasion so much. But yeah, these are my opinions on the Jane Austen books, rereading them, what I thought of them, how Jane Austen July changes every year. And I wonder next year, will I get more out of it? Will I get to do more rereads? Will I get to do more retellings? I was going to do more retellings this year, but I've not sort of found very many. But yeah, I'd love to know your opinions on this. Let me know in the comments down below. If you do like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and not subscribed yet, ring on my ding-a-ling. I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.